we are fortunate enough to be joined by Jesse Lane. Jesse is the founder and CEO of Goodmaker U and Branches Lab. I've worked with Jesse for many years now, started partnering together back at Network for Good, and his sessions are always so insightful. There's so much good information that comes out of here. So really excited to have him here. He's worked in the nonprofit and ministry space for over a decade and has helped raise over 10 million for organizations. Through his work, Jesse's helped thousands of nonprofits grow their reach, raise more money, and have a greater impact. He's super passionate about seeing organizations and ministry leaders break free from mindset traps and embrace their identity as good makers. And he lives in Northwest Arkansas with his wife and 3 daughters. So thank you, Jesse, for being here. Super excited for you to present these tips. I know folks are in for a treat, and I will take my back seat and let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. It is truly a pleasure to hang out with you guys today. I am Jesse Lane and the privilege of working with nonprofit leaders every day. And I am excited because today's topic is one of the many that I'm super passionate about. So we're going to be talking about saying thank you, and radical gratitude is what I call this topic. So I'm gonna jump in deep, but yeah, just a quick intro as well. I'd love for you to just know a little bit about me. So I'll share my story. But first, I also want to highlight, just kind of understand a little bit about you, I guess, and who I'm hanging out with. And I ask this question a lot, kind of know what the answer is going to be, but put in the chat because I want this to be a two-way conversation. I wish you could all turn on your cameras and unmute and talk, but since we can't do that, let us know in the chat, how passionate are you about your cause? Okay, no surprise, there's a lot of 10s. I'm even seeing an 11. Love that. Lots of exclamation points. So I'm not surprised by that because, like I said, I get to work with incredible nonprofit leaders all the time, and you all are passionate about your cause. Often that's the reason you got into this work, because of your passion. And I absolutely love hanging out with passionate people. But of course, we probably all know at this point that passion is a great way to get started, but you also need the skill set, you need the knowledge, you need the experience to be able to continue to sustain and grow and be healthy as an organization and as a leader, to not burn out, or to not to have the funds you need to keep growing your impact. And so that is one of my passions, is helping passionate people like you, who we call good makers, to do more good by teaching you all how to fundraise. We have something called the Fundraising Masterclass and Goodmaker Pro. These are programs where we teach every day nonprofits like you on how to do just that. And the reason we do this, the reason I kind of get out of bed in the morning so excited, is because I hate seeing nonprofits isolated. And sadly, that's a common reality. I don't know if you feel this way, but just being in the nonprofit space, it can often feel isolated. Like no one really understands just how difficult your job is, wearing so many hats and trying to put out fires and, respond to trauma-rich environments often, and also raise money and manage the board and keep compliant and lead a team and all the things, right? It can be overwhelming for sure. And I know that I've felt that way as I've been in the nonprofit industry, and I know many of you have too. And often we just find ourselves in this survival mode, right? Just trying to get by, just trying to get to that next day, that next week, make it through the next fundraiser. And I know we can't stay there. Like it's okay sometimes to be in that mode, but we can't stay there. And so my hope, and kind of why we do what we do at Goodmaker U, training nonprofits, is to put you in community with others that understand the challenges, help you to get clear and focus, like step-by-step processes, and then grow your confidence. So that's my hope for today. It's a little opportunity for us to do some of this, and then that's what we get to do all the time at Goodmaker U. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the great work that you do. We call you a good maker. We want to speak identity into you as a good maker. I don't know who wants to be known as like a nonprofit. That's kind of a weird, honestly, it's a tax status, not super exciting. So we'd rather use the word good maker. And so that's what we call nonprofit leaders. So thanks for making good. Okay. I am going to be giving you lots of resources, or referencing resources today, and they're all going to be at this one link. I'll put the link in the chat, just in case some of you want to like follow along and find these, or just make sure you have them. My goal is to make this as easy as possible for you to do. So you're not just getting head knowledge, but you're actually getting things you can go, worksheets and exercises. And this is kind of our ultimate kit, has lots of resources for you, including a one-page thank you plan. So if you want to say thank you well, this document will help you with that. So go check that out. I put the link in the chat, or you can scan the QR code there. Okay. So, my quick story, and I'll promise to keep this quick, but I want you to know I can relate to you. The first week as a fundraiser, I was surrounded by all these amazing people, nonprofit experts, leaders, and I had to present on a fundraising goal. I think my goal was like $1 million, which was absurd. I had no idea what I was doing and was clueless, and I started to hate fundraising. I feared criticism and feeling rejected, and no one likes to be rejected, right? And I hadn't really dealt with my fear of rejection at that point and feared failure. So I kind of hated fundraising out of the gate. This was a long time ago, but this is how it all began for me. And I was an accidental fundraiser. I was a marketer by trade and then stumbled into fundraising. I was excited about it, but didn't really know what I was getting into. I'm curious if any of you are accidental fundraisers too. Like you didn't go to college for that. That wasn't the game plan, but here you are. That's how it was for me. And then I always felt like so busy, just doing so many things, distracted, putting out the fires that were happening daily at the nonprofit, and a little bit overwhelmed. Okay, good to see that I'm not the only accidental fundraiser. So I'm curious if any of you ever feel this way too, just a little overwhelmed in the work. Hopefully, I'm not alone in that. But this is what it felt like to me. And so I don't like being bad at things, and I really cared about the cause, or I was passionate, just like you, 10 out of 10. So I really I wanted to get better at this. I wanted to learn fundraising. So I made it my personal mission to surround myself with amazing world-class fundraisers, to learn everything I could, and to really dig into this. And so I've been doing that now for like 14 years. And really in the next 10 after that, I've had the chance to lead 30 plus fundraising campaigns, teach thousands of leaders, and help raise over $100 million at multiple organizations and through training dozens, if not hundreds of organizations. So it's really an honor to me that I've get to do this work. And I want you to know that the things I'm teaching today come out of, like someone said in the chat, the School of Hard Knocks. I hated being bad at it. I hated failing, and I wanted to grow because the causes that we are behind matter so much. I don't want to burn out. I don't want to give up. And so I've stuck with that. Um, and today I want to introduce a concept called radical gratitude. And I believe it is one of the most important principles for any nonprofit leader, especially a fundraiser, someone that's an executive director or a leader, a board member, or a full-time fundraiser. It also is great for communications and marketing people to understand the power of radical gratitude. So hopefully those are some of the people that we've got joining us today. I'm curious, I'm going to give you another quick poll. Put it in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10. How well do you say thank you right now to your donors? Like if you just gut feeling, by the end of this webinar, you may have a different number, but would love to just know kind of how you feel about how you're doing right now. Okay.
I'm
So I'm
seeing a lot of
seeing,
like fives and sixes
yeah,
here.
for sure. Yep. So a lot of room for improvement, which is probably why you're here, right? If you were 10 out of 10, you may, not need this as much. I only see one of those. But that's great. I see that you guys are doing some things. You're not zeros and ones, but you've got room for growth. So that's great. This is so important. And so I think as you get up there to 9 and 10 over time, this could be, not to say this is a competition with other nonprofits, but this could be a competitive advantage, as in it sets you apart in the minds of donors. It really can, it's like your superpower. If you have radical gratitude and donors experience that, it becomes your superpower. And it's the reason they give again and give more every year. And we see this with everyone that implements the things we'll teach today. Okay, so I want you to have this mindset shift. We talk a lot about mindset at GoodMaker U because you could do all the right strategies and all the right things, but if your mindset is off, you're going to struggle to raise much funds. Often that shows up in perfectionism or a scarcity mindset, just so, trying to not spend a dollar or, take any risks. Um, but another mindset shift is that maybe you think of saying thank you as just an extra, like a nice to have, a cherry on top. But it really isn't an extra. Gratitude is a strategy and it is fundraising. Like if you kind of think the fundraising is over once the gift comes in, let's say you're doing a lot of end of year fundraising, as I hope you all are. I can't help but go on a little rant on that in a second, but how important December is, which is here, right? But come January, or as I call it, thankyuary, you need to be focused on this gratitude and saying thank you to donors. It's not an extra, it's not an add-on, it's not a nice to have. It is one of the most important fundraising strategies. I believe it is not just fundraising for the immediate, but for the long term for the health of your organization. So speaking of end of year fundraising, I will just quickly say this. If you haven't emphasized that at your organization, about a third of all giving, 30% to a third of all giving in the US, huge amount happens in December alone. And so if you've had a rough year fundraising, you're not hitting your goal, do not sleep on December. And then even the last 3 days of the year, about 10% of all US giving comes in the last 3 days. So this isn't what the webinar is about, but make sure you're communicating, you're on the top of people's mind, you're having those meetings with donors, sending emails all through the month of December and especially those last few days, so that when people are ready to make those gifts, they're thinking about your organization. Okay, back to radical gratitude. Here's some numbers that paint a picture for you. I don't want to overwhelm you with data points, but I do want to make a point here. So 39% more giving, or the next gift is increased when donors get a thank you call within 48 hours. I'm going to talk more about this later, but that means the timeliness of your thank you matters. So by just responding, it doesn't have to be a call, but with some sort of thank you in the first 24 to 48 hours makes a big difference. It increases their next gift significantly. Imagine if all your donors gave 39% more next time. I mean, that's game changing, right? So, and by the way, that receipt that automatically goes out doesn't count. Sorry to break it to you, but that's great. You need to do that, but that's not going to get you your 39% lift. All right, and then there's a boost in retention from a personal thank you call of 22%. So love that. That means they're more likely to give again. 80% of donors say more meaningful thank you would have kept them giving. That's crazy to me. It's like 80% that are dropping off, that are no longer giving, would say, yeah, if you would have just been more meaningful in that thank you, I probably would have kept giving. And then 200% more revenue is the long-term increase when donor retention improves just 10%. So I want you to think about this whole thing as, can you get just 10% better in this next campaign? So I'm going to cast some vision for, like, maybe 100% better for some of you. Like, I'm going to cast a vision of what 10 out of 10 could look like today. But I don't want you to get overwhelmed by that. I just want you to think, what is one thing I could do to say thank you better? One thing I could do, one step I could take. If you're just getting 10% better, that is a 200% increase long term because of the donor retention that happens there. Okay, so then there's a higher likelihood of a second gift, 2 to 3 times higher likelihood when thank yous are personalized and impact specific. And I'll give you lots of ideas on that today. But it's my point in this is saying this is a fundraising strategy, because it's not just a nice to have. These numbers prove that if you do the things that we're talking about, you'll raise more money. It's just that simple. Okay. And it's just the right thing to do, right? So here's another point. So if you see the thing on the left here, we call this the audience journey or the donor journey. We map this for our good makers in our programs, and we help you kind of define, like, how do you get someone to become aware of your organization for the very first time? That can be difficult. There's only a couple of strategies, because they're not on your email list. They're not following you on social media. So how are you going to reach them? You got to have a plan for that. And then once you finally get them to become aware, how do you get them to take that first step of engagement and start paying attention and really following along with your story? Once you do that, how do you get them to take that first gift, make that first gift? And that's a kind of a testing gift. Often they can give away more than that first gift, but they're testing you out. They're seeing how things go. And this is where the thank you becomes so important, because a great thank you, a radical gratitude, is going to lead them to become advocates, people who give again, maybe as a monthly giver, or someone who gives annually more and more. But if you don't have a great thank you experience, they're likely to drop off, and you won't retain them. And that sadly is happening with way too many of our donors. I'm going to share some stats in a second. But my point, as you can see here, is you've done so much work to get them this far, right? You did all of this hard work, which is actually way harder than having a good thank you experience, to get them into your funnel, if you will, and through the journey. And then if they finally make that donation, and then you just lose them. It's like, this is we've got to stop this, right? This is killing our missions if we have these low retention rates. So we really need to work on this. Speaking of retention rates, I would love to see who here knows their retention rate. You can put it in the chat, or you can just say yes if you're embarrassed to share it. But the if you don't even know your retention rate, that's kind of a problem. I'm going to put that out there. You may have a horrible retention rate, and essentially you're trying to catch fish with a net that's full of holes bigger than the fish, and you're never going to maintain any level of fundraising revenue. And so if you don't know your retention rate, it's going to be hard to really know, am I improving it? What am I, are the things I'm adding to this working, right? So I know some of you are saying you don't know that. I would say, look in your tool, whether it's using Bonterra's tools or just doing some of your own nitty-gritty, spreadsheet work, and try to determine your retention rate, which is simply how many of your donors from last year gave again this year. So that is definitely a starting place. And the data is not just knowing the data doesn't necessarily change the data, but it's your first step. It helps you to start to identify the opportunity. All right. So I'm going to give you a few more numbers here. So if you're focused on acquisition, I know most nonprofits are. They're thinking, you came to this webinar, so that means you're probably not too focused on acquisition, but acquisition is getting new donors, and we all want new donors. There's nothing wrong with that. But they cost, like some reports say, some up to 25 times more than just retaining your current donors. Regardless of if it's 4 or 25, it's a lot more. And so the cost of acquisition, the time it takes, the effort, all of the energy to get new donors, to find them. I know we all want that, but that is way more expensive than just simply retaining your donors at a higher rate. So that is why it's so important and smart to focus on retaining your donors first and foremost. The average donor retention rate is 42.6%. And that number changes a little bit every year, but it has been about that for many years. And that isn't good enough, right? These are, and then even worse is new donors only stick around 19% of the time. This number breaks my heart. It's just really hard to see that. It's like you worked so hard, you got these new donors, and then 81% of them, almost all of them, are not going to give again the next year, or probably ever again. So I don't know where your numbers are. I see some of you do, and I see some really strong ones in the chat. Incredible. But these are the averages, and we can do so much better than this, right? And it sounds like most of you already are, which is great. But it's sad to see that, and maybe some of you don't even know your retention rates, and it's about average or it's low. And so let's make sure we can improve that. All right, I know you're grateful, but now we've just got to figure out how to communicate that. There's some other interesting trends really quick. Overall, over the last several years, across the nonprofit industry, the number of donors and dollars are decreasing. And we're working to flip that, right? But 10 years ago, donors gave to 3 to 5 organizations. And then, sorry for the recent reports, that should be on the next line. But now donors are currently giving to an average of 2.5 organizations. What that means for you is that if you're not one of their favorite organizations, they may not continue to give to you. I think this speaks to why we're seeing low retention rates. It's maybe donors gave to several organizations in the past, but they're trying to have a bigger impact with fewer these days. And so if you're not their favorite or maybe their second most engaged, most involved organization, there's a chance they may not keep giving. And one of the ways to, focus on being that top favorite organization is through a great, meaningful thank you experience that's relational, that is personal, and that demonstrates impact. And that's a key thing that I want you to be thinking about. And we'll keep digging into that here in a second. Okay, I want to hear from you a little bit. So it sounds like some of you are crushing it. You're just doing great on this. So I would love to hear, how are you saying thank you to donors now? So just a few words in the chat, kind of what are you doing? Like, what are some of your ideas? What are some of your favorite things that you're doing that are really working well? And I'm just kind of want to hear, and we can all read each other's and get ideas. Thank you letters and social media shout outs, impact statements, cards, three people in a row, thank you cards, emails, phone calls, thank you notes, handwritten notes, handwritten notes. So a lot of those videos on social media, love that. Thank you videos. Okay. Personalized thank you letters. Drop little gifts off to high-end donors. Yep, that's a great idea. In person, announcing at events and emails. I love that. Weekly e-news. Are you highlighting those who gave or just including them in that? Curious. Holiday reception. That's fun. So they get to actually come together at an event. That's a great idea. Gratavid. Yeah, that's a great tool to send a video and say thank you. Love that you're using that, Maggie. Several of you using video. Oh, kid art, Diane, that is one of my favorites. I have seen this done before by a nonprofit, and there's nothing like some kid art. So if you're serving children, like you got to be sending some kid art out. That's awesome. I want to put that up on my wall and just reminds me of the impact of my giving. So great idea. Annual report. Yep, that's a great way to do it, especially for those major donors that maybe want to see the deeper dive in the statistics and all of that. Okay, so it looks like you guys have lots of good ideas. Yeah, I would if you didn't, go read the chat. You should check out what everybody else is doing. Lots there. So I want to now encourage you to level up. And I mentioned this before, but just a small increase in how you say thank you and can lead to a bump in your retention rates. And a small bump in your retention rates can make you a healthier organization into the future. So if you think about like having to rebuild your fundraising every year from scratch versus building on the donors from the past, right? So you're starting at that base level and all new donors are growing your organization versus having to replace those donors that you lost. That's why we want to level up. And so I'm going to give you some real practical ideas, and hopefully this will spark some new creative ideas. Although there's a lot in the chat right there to go off of as well. So just some principles, first of all, how to say thank you well. And sometimes I think about this as like a level 3 thank you. There's level 2, there's level 0, which means, whoops, I forgot to say thank you. Sadly, that happens way too often, actually. Way too often. Not to any of you guys are clearly crushing it, but there are nonprofits out there that just get too busy and forget to say thank you. Or they think their automated receipt message says thank you and it was enough, and it's not. So that's level 0. And then if you want to level up, I would say, give yourself 1 point for getting personal about it, taking the time to, customize it a little bit or use a first name or personalize the message so that it's not just the same thing for everyone. That's maybe a level 1 thank you. Level two, thank you, is you're going to get a little bit more specific, right? You're going to talk about maybe how you're going to use these funds. You're going to get specific about maybe the amount they gave or something unique that only is true for them or their giving or their campaign. So one example of this could be, you're going to get personal. So, hey, Amanda, thank you so much for your gift. I know you've been giving for 3 years, so that's specific to her. And now you're giving to this end of year campaign where we're trying to launch our new program in 2026. That's specific, right? And then really we want to get into impact oriented, right? This is the story behind it all. So that's level three. If you want to be a level three thinker, then you're going to be personal, specific, and impact oriented. And so this is where you actually share a story, right? You say, maybe it's even just a one sentence story, maybe it's a video, but it's showing you, look, your giving is already having an impact on these lives, on this cause, and on our organization. This is the story that you made possible. You and our community have made this type of impact come true. And that is the most powerful thing. And a couple of reasons why. If you think about a transaction, when you go to the store, I live in Bentonville, Arkansas, so let's talk about Walmart a little bit here. So I'm right down the street from the headquarters. So you go to Walmart to buy something, and you pay them money, you expect something in return, right? If you paid something to Walmart and didn't leave with anything, you're going to feel like something went wrong. Well, people who give to you, they're not trying to necessarily get something physical in return, but they are expecting something in return. They want to have that experience, that great feeling of making a difference and having an impact. They want to know that their gift actually mattered, right? And had an impact on the people that you serve. And one of the simplest ways to think about it is people give through you, not to you. And so it's not even so much about your organization most of the time. Maybe they do care about your organization, but they care more, most likely, about the people and the causes that you are serving and fighting for. They're giving through you to that cause. And your organization is really just a tool, a channel for their generosity. And so if you're highlighting your organization all the time, that's fine occasionally, but you're missing maybe the point for most donors. They want to hear about the impact. What's actually happening, and how's transformation taking place. So that's where the impact happens. And here's a little fun thing to think about. When you go purchase something, if you went to buy, let's say, a coffee at a coffee shop, and you sadly have to probably spend like $7 to get a cup of coffee these days. But you buy the coffee and you get it back, and that was maybe you expected that, and then you walked away with one cup of coffee. That met your expectations. But what if they then every month they sent you a free coffee gift card or something that help you get a free come back in and get a coupon for a free coffee just because you bought one cup of coffee? You would feel like you ended up getting 12 cups of coffee for the price of one, right? Well, most coffee shops can't afford to do that, but you can give them that feeling of impact, give them that feeling of gratitude and significance over and over and over again. And that is radical gratitude. It is helping them feel like their donation was the best decision they ever made. And it had so much impact. They want to keep doing that and do it even more. So I'm going to give you the formula, the radical gratitude formula. We recommend 3 touch points in 30 days, so 3 and 30, plus 3 and 3. 3 more in the next 3 months, over across the next 3 months. So that's a lot of touch points, right? I'm guessing most of you aren't doing that many, and that's okay. We're just trying to get a little bit better today. So this may be a big jump for you, but I want to put this formula out there to cast a vision of what could be in the future. And I want to unpack this or give you some examples of what this could look like. So first, I'll show you kind of this timeline here. So if you look at each of these are an example of what the 3 touch points in 30 days could look like. There may be an immediate automated thank you, and that needs to happen beyond just the receipt and that kind of thing. You could even plan a longer thank you that's automatically sent to them via email and gives them maybe a video embedded or a longer story written out highlighting the impact. I would also recommend highly recommend a personal touch within the first 48 hours. We saw earlier that that is going to increase retention rates in giving. And so make sure that that happens. So in the first 2 days, if at all possible, have that hit their inboxes, their phone call, their phones, or some other way that you want to say thank you. If you could drop by and you know them or send them a text, that's great too. But you need that personal touch on this one. It doesn't have to be long or robust. It doesn't have to take you a long time. And it actually can be automated. It's not as powerful, but if you're getting a lot of new donors, a lot of givers, you might have to automate this. And what we recommend is a tool we call the best email ever. And it's simply a planned text-only email that feels very personal. It's from a person at your organization and not the organization itself. And it hits their inboxes within a day of their gift. And it's super short, hey there, John, I saw your donation and I just wanted to stop and say thank you. This meant a lot to me. And I'm grateful that you're a part of what we're doing here. That's it. It feels personal, even though it's automated. If you can actually make it personal, that's going to be better. But if you can't, an automated email is an option. All right. And then number 3 is going to be starting to highlight the impact. This could come in the form of a quick photo that you send out. It could be the handwritten thank you note that a lot of you do. It could be other things. But one thing I want to say about the handwritten thank you note is if that is your primary way of saying thank you, it isn't getting to them fast enough. So is if they are giving and you're not getting that thank you note out, and then it has to hit the mailboxes. I mean, it's not going to hit them within 48 hours. I'm sorry. So that is something that is a great idea, and we'll talk about it more, but that is not enough. You want to have something getting to them within those first day or two of their gift. Okay. And I see a question in the chat. I'll address a couple of these real quick. Yeah, so Jason, 3 and 30. So this works great for end of year giving, but primarily this is for kind of any new donors. You could actually do a lot of this for existing donors. Maybe you dial it back a little bit, but this can happen year round at any time there's a gift. In an ideal scenario, a lot of this is automated or rhythmic. So you've got team members or yourself having weekly rhythms to make sure and you knock this out for any new donors that came in if it takes a personal touch. A lot of this can be automated through email tools and making sure that those communications are, the donors come in tagged and then it triggers this communication. And so that is why a lot of this doesn't have to be that much work. And then Jay asked, is this formula recommended for donations at a certain level or implemented across the board for new gifts? I would say in an ideal scenario, depending on your organization size and how many donors you're getting, but ideally this would be for all givers eventually. But obviously, most importantly, as you're starting to build up, focusing on those significant givers that have such an impact on your organization and making sure they're getting this kind of response is going to be most important. But as you're able to automate some of this and build it out that way, it allows you to do this for all donors without extra work. Okay, so number 3, impact could be that written note. It could be a quick video that you send or a board member phone call. We'll talk about more ideas there. And then number 4, I love this to be another little personal note. So the impact-oriented version was more like highlighting, here's already the impact that we're seeing because of the generosity of you and our community. Number 4 could be a little bit of more of a personal note. Imagine if this is a major donor, this is somebody that you might want to meet with, somebody that gave significantly in their very first gift. You may want to schedule a meeting or a Zoom call and spend some time with them. Get to know their why. So trying to make a little bit of a more personal touch. Number two and three, honestly, they could be automated, but I would love to encourage you to have at least one non-automated touch point within the first month or two of your follow-up. This is just an example. So the way you do this is going to look different for each organization. And then maybe number five could come a couple months after their gift. So I've got, if this was their first gift, month one, month two, so maybe, 2, 3 months after their gift, they're getting an email that says, because of your gift, we're seeing this type of transformation happen, or we were able to go hit this milestone or start this new thing. And by the way, this type of email doesn't have to go to each person individually. This could be a mass email. So, for instance, what I would recommend is come March or February, you say, pull a segment of people that donated in your end of year season. So, whether you define that as November and December or just December, you pull that together, segment that as a list, and send one email to everybody that says, because you gave at the end of last year, this is what's happening already this year. This is the impact that we're seeing. That is going to start to plant seeds for next year's end of year giving, right? The next end of year is coming, and that's and showing them that their gift matters. You haven't forgotten about it. It's this idea of it's a really powerful idea that a small group of people came together to rally around this cause to make something happen. But people don't get that impression unless you're telling them that that's what happened. And anytime you have a campaign, like an end of year campaign, that's what's happening. The people that give to it are rallying around you to help accomplish a goal. And then you need to follow up and remind them of what they've done. Again, giving them that free cup of coffee every month, right? It's that free feeling of, yes, I did something that mattered. I want to do that again. In number six, you're casting vision because you're likely moving into another fundraising campaign. Often there's a spring campaign that you have a giving day, something event. And so are you making sure you're casting vision for the future? And then you're going to move into that fundraising campaign. And then of course, on the heels of that, you're going to focus on thank you again. So this is just a high level view. I'm not trying to get too specific on the exact day or what exactly to say, because I want you to customize that to what makes sense to your organization. But if you're able to do this type of thing, some of it automated, some of it manual, you're going to start to express radical gratitude and see your retention rates go way up. All right. One point I also want to make. Of course, you're demonstrating impact, you're saying thank you, but I also want to challenge you to take every chance to get to know your donors. What do I mean by this? One of the most important things you can know about any individual giver, especially your major givers, your significant financial investors and partners, is their why. Do you know their why? We often assume their why is like the same as ours, right? We're so passionate about this thing. Surely that's what everybody else is passionate about. But often their why is very personal to them. The reason they give may be something in their story, in their personal story, something that happened to them as a child, something from a family that a family has been impacted by. And if you don't know that, it's really hard to really get personal in your communication. But if you do know that, you've unlocked really their heart and the why. And with that, larger gifts usually follow. And it's also just a great way to honor their story. And so if you're calling donors to say thank you, or your board members are, be sure you're asking questions, getting curious, saying, hey, I'm curious, why did you give? Like, not because you got an email or saw it, on our website, but like, why? Why did you choose to give to our organization with all the others out there? And write that down. Take notes, because that is really important insight. So every chance you can, and in your emails, if you write a little personal email to someone, maybe it's 2 sentences. Thank you so much for your gift. It means a lot to me. I'm curious why you give to us. There you go. Just let them respond. Getting to know their why is really going to allow you to speak to them in a way that other organizations can't. Okay, so we promised 10 ideas, and I'm going to give them to you right now. So I'm going to walk through each of these and kind of explain why I think they're powerful. So number one, a thank you note, not just from a staff member, but from someone impacted, someone that has been impacted by your organization. I think that's 5 times more powerful. And here's why. When I said, "How are you saying thank you?" A lot of you said a handwritten thank you note. It's very common. And for donors, they're probably, it means something. It's special still. I'm not saying it's bad, but how much better is it if it's not from the person that's paid to do fundraising, right? But it's from someone that was impacted. So I would say somewhere in the middle would be a board member. So you or your staff, that's good. A board member's great, but the best would be if it was from someone impacted. So that would be the next level on the thank you note. I love a thank you video. And if there's other tools out there, I know some people mentioned Gratavid and I don't know if Amanda, you mentioned one, but I use Loom if I'm looking for a free option, but uh, there are a couple tools that help you send a quick video from you, a board member, or someone impacted. And I love this, and it's a trend, and I think it's really smart. I will say personally, I would much rather record a quick video and hit send on that with a link than go find a stamp and an address and an envelope and write it all out with my handwritten note, because maybe it's just because I'm a millennial, but it is actually easier for me. And I think it stands out because it's still pretty unique. More organizations are doing this, but it's still pretty uncommon to get this as a donor. So that would be one creative idea. And then a phone call from a board member. I think that this is a really good way to get your board involved in fundraising, helping them see that this is a fun, easy way that they could participate. Again, not just in saying thank you, but in fundraising, right? Because thank you is fundraising. But you could do this at a board meeting. You could assign them one board meeting and then follow up with them and give them a week to do it. But I love to give each board member, a set of donors with phone numbers and a script and say, call all these people and either leave a voicemail or have a quick conversation and just say thank you, ask them why they gave, and don't make any other asks. Just give them a passionate gratitude, message of gratitude. And that's really powerful. To get a call from a board member makes a donor feel special. Um, and any phone call is a great idea, but especially if it's from a board member. And then the next one would be a social media shout out. And I saw that some of you are doing this, especially if it's a business owner or a corporate partner. They're typically going to love the brand shout out or the love for the organization. If it's an individual or family, you may want to make sure 100% sure they want that, right? You're going to get their approval first. They may want to remain anonymous or don't want that attention, but most companies or brands are going to be thankful for that. So you still probably want to get their approval. But a social media shout out can be a fun way to do that. I've seen organizations do this really well where they're doing this on a frequent basis, and I'll see names or organizations like, I had no idea that person or that company cared about this cause. And I would reach out to that person and be like, hey, I donate to this group too. That's so cool. How'd you get connected? And so it really can have an impact. And then maybe there's a little merch kit that you give. I think that if they're a major donor or really passionate about what you're doing, they might love to wear a shirt or have a sticker that has your logo on it or a message from your organization. In a similar way, if you can also send like a really inexpensive kit out with like maybe a sticker, a pin, a little postcard, and it's a nice little welcome kit for especially a new monthly donor, because they're kind of joining into your community at a higher level by making a monthly, commitment to give. And so a little kit is a fun way to just welcome them in. A donor highlight in a newsletter. I don't see enough stories of donors, right? So I'd love to see more stories, period, but especially donor stories. And so highlighting, telling a story of a donor in your newsletter, social media, that's a cool way to honor them, but it also inspires other people too. So think about doing that. You could do it in email, print, however you communicate. And then a small photo book. I love this idea. Like, what if every year you pull together some of the best photos from the year and ship that to your top 20 donors, top 50 donors? And it doesn't have to be expensive. And it's something tangible that they can leave out on their coffee table, talk to people about. Yeah, yeah, check out this organization. We've given to them for the last few years, and they always send us these photo books, and it really helps us, understand the impact of our involvement. So it's kind of a cool shareable way to possibly have them tell others. You probably couldn't afford that to do if you have thousands of donors. You couldn't do that for everyone, but maybe a top tier or a certain level of donors. A signed artifact or photo from those impacted. You can see a picture of these kids signing a soccer ball, and this idea I created that with AI, but I actually know of an organization that is like a global soccer organization that uses soccer to bring people together, and I think they've done this in the past where they'll have kids and people sign a soccer ball and then they'll send that to their donor to like some donors, and I think that is so fun. I mean, everybody's going to keep that, right? They may throw away your, letters and all the print pieces we send, but they're going to keep a signed artifact like that. I've received something like this too, that was just a framed print of a piece of paper with a note, a handwritten note, and a signature that was sent to me. So that's a really cool idea. And then if you want to really go big, I love this idea of a wall of gratitude. And you can see this picture. You often see this in really like a hospital or a school, but you can do this in a less expensive kind of way too. Maybe it is, something that you just do real simply in your office or in your spaces that as donors come in for a tour or whatever, you can walk them through and they can see the names of all of those that have impact. And I think that is a really great experience. And it just keeps the generosity of your community front and center. All right. So, real quickly, I want you to keep in mind you're always trying to demonstrate impact. I'm not going to read through all these ideas, but there is a lot of different ways to do that, right? Of course, storytelling is my favorite. You're going to be able to use stories to help people see the impact of their giving. You can do that through interviewing, whenever possible, using real names and photography. I know that's not always possible for a lot of you. So if that's the case, you could consider using AI or some blurred photos or photos of of their neck down or just their feet. I've seen really creative things or from behind, just to show that, hey, they're real people all around. We just can't show you their faces. There's a lot of ways to do that. Get creative, find a way that works for you. And then maybe it's an impact measurement study where you're actually showing the difference over time that your organization's had in the data. An infographic, if you could show them on a map where you're serving, that's also really cool. And before and after photos are some of my favorite. So I've seen this. Some organizations, it really comes natural for them to do that. It's like, this is what this looked like before, and here's an after photo, and you can instantly see what they've done. Okay, I have a little worksheet here to help you think through this. It's a part of, I think there's like 8 or 10 things in this kit. But if you download this kit, you'll get this worksheet to help you make your plan. I'm going to put the link back in the chat in case you want that. But I would just encourage you, as today sometime, maybe tomorrow, if you're working tomorrow before Thanksgiving, jot down some of these ideas so that you don't just have a bunch of ideas, but then actually don't go implement them. And so just keep it simple. Think through like, what are the ways we're going to say thank you? And then when are we going to do that? Like in the first 48 hours, or is this going to be 1 month after their donation or 1 year after the donation? We're going to say thank you for celebrating an anniversary of their first gift. So write the how, write the when, and bring that together. I would just encourage you, take action while it's fresh so that you don't lose these ideas. Okay, a few key reminders as we start to wrap up. I've got a couple more things to share, but I don't want to forget to say these things. Don't make a task. And that is this idea of an ask for a donation wrapped up in a pretend thank you. And that often only happens if you kind of forgot to say thank you, and then you're coming back to them for a donation, a gift, and donation again, and you're like, oh, whoops, I never said thank you for their last one. So I'm going to say thank you, and by the way, we give again. Um, there is a time and a place for, the ask, right? And that's great. Don't hesitate to make an ask. But if you've never said thank you for their last gift, that's the top priority, and make that the single focus of your communication. I've already mentioned this a lot. Thank donors quickly. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. I know some of you never use the phone or you avoid it like me, but it's something powerful about that. And then, like I said, be curious. Ask about why they gave, how they found out about you, what in their story motivated them. Use an automated email series because that allows you to do some of these ideas on repeat automatically every time from now on without you having to personally do all that. And then I recommend some sort of documented journey that leads to a monthly gift. There's been research I think from Next After that shows that in the first 30 days, people are most likely to become, after their gift, in the first 30 days is when they're most likely to become a monthly giver. And so if you might be thinking, wow, that's really soon. Exactly. So like if you have a great automated email series, you said thank you in the first 48 hours, they got a personal video a week later, and then they're getting an email in this automated series that invites them to become a monthly giver. There's a high likelihood that they'll jump in and keep giving now on a reoccurring basis, which obviously is really great. Chuck asks, how do you get people to answer your calls? Well, they don't half the time. So leave a voicemail, and then maybe just communicate in multiple ways. So send them a quick email, a text, or make a phone call. Do 2 or 3 things over the course of a couple of days. And if you're just trying to say thank you, they're typically not as afraid to answer if you give them a heads up that that's why you're calling. All right, before we wrap up and get to Q&A, I do want to let you know if you want more training from us, our GoodMaker Pro program allows for you to jump into what we've created a 10-day year-end challenge. And with this 10 days, I have a video and a checklist for every single day for 10 days that are going to help you raise a lot more funds this end of year. So if you want to really boost your end of year giving, you can join that course and knock that out in 10 days. And then we also have a much fuller, what we call fundraising masterclass, which is made to be completed over the course of a couple of months. And it has tons of exercises for you and worksheets. And here's where this is a lot of times where nonprofits can raise twice as much as they ever have. We see this actually all the time, sometimes 5 times more or 10 times more than they have in the past. We teach major donor development, email marketing, helping you know who to ask and what to say when you make the ask. And then in that, if you're in GoodMaker Pro, you'll actually get a weekly call with me and a group of other good makers, other nonprofit leaders. We have a call every Thursday afternoon, and you'll get to join this community of people that are doing this work together. And so we just lowered the price to $125 a month. And so if you're interested in joining, typically we've been charging $500 a month, and people say it's the best investment they've ever made because they ended up raising, 10, 20, 30,000 more in the first couple of months with major donors, with matching gifts. Their board is more engaged. So it gets an ROI. But I wanted to quickly put in the, Amanda already did. She put a link in the chat. Thank you to if you want to go check it out and join our GoodMaker Pro. We ended up lowering the price just because everybody's raising prices. The nonprofit industry is facing more challenges than ever before, and we wanted to help. So we have an agency, a creative agency that's doing really well, where we're serving multi-million-dollar nonprofits, and we're able to make this really affordable for smaller and mid-sized nonprofits. So that's why we just lowered the price. Some of the topics that we cover, I won't go through all these, but in GoodMaker Pro, we teach on all of these things. We want to help you learn how to get recurring givers, avoid burnout, digital marketing, all of these things. Okay. So Amanda put a link in the chat. You could also scan this QR code, but I'd love to open it up for Q&A just for the last few minutes before we wrap up today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse. Really appreciate all the insight. I warned folks that you'd learn a lot today, and I think we followed through on that. So thank you so much, Jesse, for bringing all of this insight and mindset shift and tips to the table, and folks for joining. Really, again, appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. No, we only have a couple of minutes for questions here, so I'm going to try to do some creative combining. But a lot of folks actually were asking about this idea of like gift giving as a thank you, whether that be the gift card or for coffee, or whether that be the kit. Lots of different ideas that you shared, but kind of
Yep.
folks wondering like, how do you balance donors thinking, well, like, why did you use my money on this thank you gift instead of for the cause?
Mhm.
Or, feeling like it was like a waste, so to speak.
Yeah.
And Amy was wondering, like, should we ask them what they want? So there are a
Yep.
couple just ideas flowing there. Would love if you could touch on that.
Yeah. I would say, as much as possible, finding out what individual donors would, how they like to be thanked, or how they feel about that. I would say that I think it's a minority of donors that are going to get irritated by you spending money on a thank you gift. There are some out there, but I think it's a minority. They tend to be vocal about it and complain. And so I've been on the recipient of emails saying, "Why did you spend my money on this trinket?" Which that thing costs maybe $1.25, and it helps our retention rate and helps us raise a lot more. So we come back to them and say, we're so grateful for your gift. We want to be good stewards. By sending thank you gifts and acknowledging gifts like this, we actually raise more money and are able to send more to our cause. And so communicating that is a good way to do it. But I would also say a lot of major donors are going to be less concerned with this. Typically, is what I find. I mean, I know organizations that spend a lot of money hosting and inviting their donors and giving great gifts, but then those donors turn around and give, $1 million gifts, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And so they're not concerned that the organization spent a couple $1,000s to fly them over to a nice hotel and wine and dine them, because they're giving $1 million. It's like they understand, they're business people, they understand it takes, spending money to make money. Now, a lot of other donors, you're going to have a loud minority. And so pay attention to that, try to accommodate those preferences. But I would say don't let that minority that may be vocal, keep you from investing at all, because it is actually a proven strategy. And again, yeah, you can go overboard. You have to watch your expenses, but as long as it's modest and meaningful, I think most people aren't going to complain.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Finding that balance, right, and making sure that the voice of the few don't overtake what we know works for the many.
Yeah.
What do you have, like 2 more minutes? You think we
Sure.
go a
I'm good.
little
Yeah.
over for a question? I'll try to keep these as yes as no as possible. Jason had asked about texting or voice messages instead of a voice call. Does that feel sufficient in terms of a communication method?
Yeah, if you have a relationship where you text with a donor, then text the donor. I think that is the goal, honestly. I think if you don't have any relationships at that level, by the way, then you might not be getting to know your donors well enough. But I have typically first name text relationships with my most significant donors. And so, absolutely, I could send them a voice message or a text, and that I wouldn't make that my only way of saying thank you. But I think that's a great addition. It feels very personal, and it's just how you communicate. So yes.
Yeah. Could be one of those, three touch points,
Yeah,
either in that first or second part of that timeline
exactly.
that you gave. Um, all right. This is a good closing question. Mindful of time, that came in from Angelica, who said, we're mostly volunteer and board run. So if you had to narrow down three of the thank you ideas within the first 60 days, what would
Mhm.
they be for those of us who might not have the capacity to do them all?
Yeah, that's great. Um, I would encourage you then just to automate an email series of 3 or 4 emails that go out in the first 60 days. And that can sound high tech. It's not that hard. And with the right tool set, it's just like building, 3 or 4 emails. And that way, once the work is done, it might take you a few hours, it's done. And then from now on, every new donor is going to get those. And in those emails, you can have a lot of stories, maybe, a heartfelt thank you message, something that feels really personal. And then layering on top of that, if possible, whoever has the time, at least one quick personal touch point is sometime in that first 30 days, maybe. Could be whatever's easiest and most natural for you, honestly, if you're the one doing it. So for me, I love a quick video or a phone call, but some people might prefer to write out an email. And I would just say, so the automations plus one personal touch point feels pretty doable. And maybe that personal touch point only goes to donors that give a certain level and above so that it's not too many to keep up with.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that, Jesse. And for those who, again, like if you're looking to explore what some of those easier tools might be to help you automate, to help you send video thank yous, that's kind of what our bread and butter here at Bonterra. So if you do want to learn more about those, I just popped up another quick poll. Feel free to fill that out so that we can get in touch with you and just kind of walk you through what those options are. But I know we are over time. So thank you for the bonus 4 minutes to this wonderful group of good makers. Thank you, Jesse, for staying over time here with us and providing so many great insights. I hope you can see the thank yous rolling in through the chat. It is a time for gratitude. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you get some time to breathe as we prepare for it will be a busy December. So good luck to everyone. Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.